Hey, this is Jennifer and Megan. We are two sisters from South Carolina on a mission to discover more about our British grandmother's life in London by reading, researching, and sharing her love letters she wrote to her American soldier sweetheart during World War II. Our grandmother Lucy was born and raised in London, England, and our grandfather Jimmy was born and raised in South Carolina. He was in the U.S. Army and was stationed near Salisbury when they first met. At some point, he visited London and he and Lucy met somewhere in Covent Garden. At the time of the first letter that we have, Lucy and Jimmy had met, fallen in love, gotten engaged, and were planning on getting married in London and then moving to South Carolina once the war was over. But before they were able to get married, Jimmy was shipped off to France. They thought he would be coming back to London sometime soon after leaving, but as we now know, that didn't happen. And from the moment they departed at the train station, it will be 2 years before they are reunited. And so this 2-year period that they were apart is what gave us these letters we are reading today. It's such a beautiful love story that we just have to share it. Also, it's taken a life of its own as we've made so many awesome discoveries along the way, and it has become an ongoing research project. So, if you're looking for an interesting, unique perspective on life, love, and London during World War II, then you've found the right place. We will take you through each letter and bring them to life as we have recently traveled to some of the exact places mentioned in these letters. Think of this as a historical love story come to life. So, grab your favorite beverage and blanket and prepare to dive in with us. This is the All My Love, Lucy podcast. Hey, and welcome back to the All My Love, Lucy podcast. We are so glad you're here with us for episode number 16.
Thank you all so much for all the love and support and just following along on this journey.
Yeah, we appreciate it. We are so glad. We get so many comments and messages about how people are enjoying it, and we get people who contribute to the podcast by if they've done their own research on some of the things we talked about. And so with that said, do you remember when we talked about the haystack?
Mm-hmm.
And it was in quotations and we didn't really know what it meant. Well, our mom called and said that she looked it up, which I think is fun when our listeners get involved and start looking things up and then communicating with us. And so she looked that up. And so I wanted to share that real quick. But the haystacks, a possible explanation. Now, I don't know for sure if this is what it is, but a possible explanation to what Lucy was referring to when she talked about they went to the zoo and then she said, and the haystack. And we were like, okay, we don't really know. So a possible explanation could be this. As part of the British anti-invasion preparations, they were building brick or concrete forts that were referred to as pillboxes because of their shape. And some of these pillboxes were designed to look like innocent structures, such as a small cottage or a bus stop shelter or a seaside kiosk or things like that. And so, and what Lucy possibly was referring to here, they also could mimic haystacks, looking like haystacks out in a field. So it's possible that that's what they saw. And there was one, and I found a picture. There was one in Trafalgar. Am I saying that right? Trafalgar Square. You remember when we went by there? There was one there that mimicked or looked like a information booth or something right there in Trafalgar. I'm so sorry. I'm probably butchering that. But I have a picture I'll put up of that. So I don't know if Jimmy referred to all of them as haystacks and maybe they were in the city and they passed by that one or one like it. I can't imagine if they went to the zoo that they would be out in a field somewhere where they would see one that looked like a haystack,
Yeah.
So anyway, I just wanted to tell y'all that because our mom called and said, hey, I looked this up and actually it was a thing during the war. So, and then I watched a video about these. And it's really interesting to learn about these, but you can do your own research. But they were called pillboxes, and I'll put some pictures up of some of them, what they look like. But they were little forts, and they were usually, I think what I read is they were usually placed in kind of not obscure places, but I guess kind of off target, so that if what they saw the enemy coming, of course, if a bomb was going to blow them up, but they could kind of start defending themselves before. Anyway, so it's interesting to look up and read about. But that's what I wanted to mention here. But also, as always, if you're a first time listener, then we do encourage you to go back and start with episode number 1, because this is more like a series podcast. And so it's kind of in chronological order. You don't have to, but there's a lot of information that we've talked about. And just so that you'll understand, if we refer back to something, then you'll know what we're talking about. And then lastly, and I'll be quiet, let's start the letter. We always have an uninterrupted reading of the letter at the end, so make sure that you stick around for that. So let's get started with letter number 16.
July 30th, 1944. My very own darling, I am so glad to be home so that I can write you an extra letter. How are you, dearest? I wonder where you are at this moment and what you are doing. Have you met many French people yet and learned any French, mon cher?
I thought that was sweet that she spoke French right there. And so, of course, Jimmy is still in France. And I know last time I said that we would talk more in depth about what exactly Jimmy was doing right now. And I did read in this book, and I always like to reference this book. Michael has been emailing, Michael Godbout, the author of this book. If you're a first time listener, the author of this book, Key to Command, Michael Godbout is the author. And his dad and our grandfather, Jimmy, were in the 50th Signal Battalion together. And they actually landed at Utah Beach on D-Day. They were on the same boat. There was 14 of them, and they were together. And so since starting the podcast, we have connected with Michael Godbout and discovered this book. He spent like 20 years researching for it, and retracing the steps and the path that they took from Iceland to Germany. And just is phenomenal, this book. I know I mentioned it a lot, but if you're a first time listener, I just wanted to explain what I'm referring to here. But I was reading a lot about kind of this time period of this letter. And it says that they were preparing, right before this, they were preparing for a breakout. And I want to talk to Michael and figure out what exactly that meant and what they were doing. But they were still in France. So here she's asking, have you met many people or learned any French? So they were still in France, but I'm going to get more details before I talk about exactly what was going on. So we'll talk more about that next time.
Well, sweetheart, I have been very busy today, cleaning my room and been mending my stockings, which were full of holes. What joy it would give me to throw them all away, but as I won't get any coupons until August 5th, I have to hang on to them as I get blisters if I go without.
So, remember we were talking about this and how we were like, man, we would just throw them away.
Yeah.
So she wanted to, and she would have, but because of the rations, she was holding on to them. So, but so we wanted to talk a little bit more about the rations today. And what I'm about to read, the following information was found on the BBC website under the World War II People's War by the author listed as, and it didn't list an exact name, but A. T. Moore is I guess his little screen name or whatever it is. But I wanted to mention that because I'm going to read directly. I'm going to not just paraphrase. I'm going to actually read it. So I wanted to make sure and give credit where that's due. So, but the rationing, so food rationing, we talked a little bit about this, but I found some pretty specific information about this. And so food rationing began in 1940 with sugar, meat, bacon, ham, and butter. Other items were added as it continued, but the basic rations per person per week, keep that in mind, per person per week. For meat, it was about half a pound of meat for a whole week. Can you imagine?
Wow. No.
We use 1 pound of meat for spaghetti for one night. But of course, that's 4 of us, but still, half a pound of meat per week, 3 ounces of bacon and ham. I guess the like it would be kind of like the ground beef type stuff, minced beef or whatever. But then also 3 ounces of bacon and ham, which would be about 4 thin slices for a whole week. I would eat 4 slices for breakfast.
Me too.
So 4 thin slices per week. 8 ounces of sugar. How many ounces of sugar is in this like a regular drink? A lot.
Yeah, probably too much.
But 8 ounces for the entire week. 8 ounces of sugar. 2.5 ounces of tea. 2 ounces of butter. 2 ounces of cheese. 4 ounces of margarine. 1 ounce of cooking fat. And 1 egg. 2.5 pints of liquid milk. 12 ounces of sweets per month. Not per week. And so in order to receive the basic fixed rations, the customer had to register with a particular shopkeeper for a 12-month period. So I guess you would just like go to Ingles and say and sign up and register and say, you know, this is what I'm getting. This is, I guess, so they could keep up with it. I guess that's how, because, you know, didn't have the internet, didn't have systems or an app that they could click and know how much you had gotten. So I guess they made them go to one particular. But anyway, I thought that was crazy interesting. But so the ration book also contained points coupons, which could be exchanged for other foods, including fish, meat and vegetables, as well as dried foods and fruits. So they could exchange stuff, but you had to stay within that certain amount of points. To stabilize the cost of living index, food subsidies and price controls were applied to a variety of foods which were in short supply. Surveys of opinion showed that rationing was popular because it was regarded as fair. And we have a glimpse into this world. Of course, I don't know what it's like to only have 1 egg a week available to me, or how many slices, 4 thin slices of bacon, or I can't imagine that, making that stretch and making that last. But overall, it was popular because it was regarded as fair, and we can kind of tell or kind of get a glimpse of that in the pandemic that we just went through, and how greedy people will go in and get everything for themselves for whatever purpose, whether it was to have their own stockpile for their family or whether it was to take it and try to sell and, you know, make money off of it or whatever. For example, the toilet paper. As much as we laugh about that, that was a real situation that people were hoarding toilet paper. Did y'all ever run out and couldn't find any?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We did one time, and then the next time I was like, we got to get the 20-pack. Because, I mean, if we don't, we're not going to have any. And so it kind of created that frenzy of, well, everybody else is doing it. I better stock up too, or there won't be any. So eventually the stores started putting a limit on how many people could purchase, which is kind of the same thing as rationing.
Right.
But theirs was everything. Can you imagine if they had rationed everything during that time? That would have been a very big culture shock for us.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the toilet paper was bad enough. But overall, they considered it as fair, and I can see that. I can see how that would be considered as fair, because once they started limiting the toilet paper, I was like, well, it's about time. All these people grabbing all of it up.
I know.
Imagine if it was food too. Well,
Okay.
it was. A lot of stuff was gone off the shelves.
Yeah.
Because people were. But anyway. So, another thing about in this article that I read, I just found this article very interesting. So, I am reading a lot of it. How to Defend the Home Front, a special wartime plan of action, meet new conditions with new methods. That was kind of the title of it. And so, number one, select food for its nourishing value. So instead of a bunch of snacks and stuff that's bad for you, get stuff that's going to sustain you, stuff that's going to be healthy for you, that's actually going to provide energy for you, not just a sugar spike, that sort of thing. Plan meals ahead and cook as much as possible once the cooker has heated up. So, some of the stuff I think I need to be doing that now.
Yeah, probably.
Select food for its nourishing value. How important would that be? That would be helpful. Use a 3-tier steamer so that the complete meals can be cooked on one burner. Make a hay box and save fuel. I didn't look that up. I don't really know what that is referring to. Make a hay box and save fuel. Use surplus dripping in place of margarine for cakes made by the rubbing in method. And dripping, I did look that up because I've read that a lot. I've seen that a lot, the dripping. And basically, it's like when you cook your bacon and your ham, or whatever fat is left over, grease, you would put it in the refrigerator and let it get hard like butter. And then you would use that in place of butter and margarine.
Interesting.
So that's what dripping was. Serve dripping toast and fried bread to save on butter. Joints of meat lose less weight during the cooking if they are stewed or boiled instead of fried or baked. And this brought to my memory, Grandma Lucy, she boiled a lot of her meat.
Really?
Yeah, I ate with her a lot. I would eat with dinner with her or whatever. And she had I remember Julia saying she didn't really like how she cooked. And so some of the things that she did was a little odd to me or to us. And so I remember her boiling her meat.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was not bad, but it was just different.
Yeah.
And so some typical meals of wartime. Whew. Pigs, trotters, and dumplings. And the trotters refer to the feet. Pig's feet. Have you ever ate pig's feet?
No, I have not.
I haven't either. I know lots of people do.
I have no desire to.
I have no desire to either. I have eaten a pig's ear.
Oh.
Ew, I know.
No.
It was at Bacon Brothers. You know what I'm talking about? The restaurant?
I don't think so. Where is that at?
It was in Greenville. I don't know if it's still there. But they had pig ears with pimento cheese.
Ew.
Ew. I know, I didn't like it. I think it was just in my head. Like it didn't really have much of a substance to it. It was almost like a pork rind with just a little bit more substance. You know how pork rinds are just like air.
Yeah.
Crispy air. Well, so I did eat that. But I've never had pig's feet. I know lots of people do. The next one, I was like, what? I looked it up and I thought, what? Is that a typo? Sheep's heart pie. And they would use like 3 sheep hearts to make that.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
The next one, cow heel stew.
Oh my gosh, it just keeps getting worse.
No. Then the next one, sheep's head broth. So you just boil the head.
Oh my goodness.
Oh.
Ugh.
But you know what? If you were only getting, how much meat do we say? Half a pound of meat a week? You'd have to get in, what's it called? Not inventive. What's the word? Creative.
I guess.
Whatever that word is. sheep's head and parsley sauce. And then the next one, do you know what tripe is? The next one is tripe, Tripe, and onions. And I wanted to do the shock factor for you.
Oh, no.
It just sounds, I don't know. If anyone eats tripe, I'm not trying to be offensive. I am just really surprised. But tripe refers to the edible muscle walls of the stomachs of ruminant animals like cows, sheep, and buffalo. It's commonly made from the stomach lining of cattle, pigs, and sheep. Tripe.
Oh, my gosh.
So if you ever hear someone say they're cooking tripe for you, say, no, no, I will pass
No,
on
thank
that.
you.
Mm-mm. So, and then dripping cake, again, that's instead of using butter or margarine, you would use the bacon fat that you put in the fridge and hardened. You'd use that instead of butter. Eggless cake, I don't know. I didn't read about that. But anyway, so during the war, during World War II, rationing was a crucial part of life in the United Kingdom. And we hear Lucy in these letters talk about it a lot. In the future, she talks about it a lot. There's one letter that I cannot wait to read. I can't remember when it is, but I've read it multiple times. And she lists out things. And it was the first time I read that and thought, what? 1 egg a week? Or it may even be 2 weeks. Maybe every 2 weeks. But anyway, I remember reading that and thinking, wow, I just can't imagine living in that time.
Mm-mm.
So the rationing was a crucial part of life in the UK. The government implemented rationing to manage scarcity and prioritize essential goods for the armed forces and essential services. And so I read all that. And these allowances fluctuated throughout the war. But all of this gives us an idea of what people had to work with during that time. And so just imagine trying to plan meals with that limited amount of groceries that you had each week. So I guess they would have to get creative with what they cooked and used. And I say that, we make faces about all that. But if you're hungry,
you got to do what you got to do.
You do. And you may not think that you would eat a cicada.
Oh, no.
Have you seen that?
Yes.
Have you seen people
in the grits instead of? Have you seen the grits?
No, I've seen them dipping them in chocolate covered cicadas.
No, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, I've been seeing all kinds of stuff though.
But no, I've seen where they, instead of shrimp and grits, they're doing the cicadas.
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! Now I'm telling you, if I was starving, I would probably do it.
Yeah.
But there's not a need for me to do that right now.
Right.
So
hopefully there never will be.
I know. Oh my goodness. I know. And they might be good. You never know. They might taste good. We eat a lot of stuff that might be weird to other people,
Yeah.
So, but back to this, that just is imagine planning meals. You think you wouldn't eat something, but if that's all you had.
Yeah.
You'd have to.
You have no choice.
Yeah. And it might taste good. Some of the things that we think are nasty might taste good. Okay. So on the clothes, she's talking about, again, mending her stockings and how she wishes she could throw them away because she's having to mend all the holes. They're full of holes, she said. So, and we talked about that the last time she talked about mending stockings. We really went over all the things about the stockings. And we were talking about how they would tan their legs with the tea to kind of give the look of having stockings on, and gravy browning, and then draw the line up the back with a pencil or eyebrow pencil and all of that. But also, I was talking to Mom about this. I said, I didn't even think that they wore stockings because they would get blisters. And the ladies would wear stockings. Now we're like putting on a pair of socks with tennis shoes, but the way they dressed and the shoes that they would wear, the stockings would help prevent blisters. So I didn't think about that part of it.
Yeah, I didn't either.
So it wasn't just for looks.
Yeah.
But it was for comfort and protection of their feet. So, pressure on clothes manufacturing. The war increased the demand for uniforms, of course, putting immense pressure on Britain's textile and clothing industries. Around a quarter of the British population wore some form of uniform due to their involvement in the armed forces, auxiliary forces, or voluntary services. I can't get that out. So, like probably the fire watching, maybe not just the neighborhood fire watching, but some of the fire team and all that.
Mm-hmm.
They probably had to wear some sort of uniform. And so on June 1st, 1941, the British government introduced clothes rationing to conserve the raw materials and allocate labor and factory space for war production. War production took precedence over everything else. This announcement came as a surprise to most people. Imagine if they started saying that for us. You can't shop on Amazon anymore.
People would lose their minds.
You can't order that.
Oh.
Empty your cart on Amazon.
Oh my goodness. What would you do?
I don't know. I order something every week. So, but imagine that. Imagine not being able to get clothes when you wanted them. New clothes or new jacket or even pantyhose.
Mm-hmm.
Can't buy any new ones because I've only got so many coupons. And she said, August 5th was the next time?
Mm-hmm.
So she still got about a week that she has to wear those stockings and go to work every day and fire watch and everything.
Yeah.
So, but the rationing of clothes was introduced on a principle of points rationing. The basic entitlement for each adult was 66 points or coupons per year. The coupon holder could purchase clothes to their points value through the 12-month period. And so, for instance, a lady's winter coat required 15 coupons. A pair of men's trousers required 8 coupons, and so forth and so on. But consequently, a standardized look in men's and women's clothing developed as manufacturers concentrated on a limited range of designs and materials. This utility principle was later extended to the furniture. So just your basic, I guess we would probably think of that as like a minimalist lifestyle now.
Mm-hmm.
Just like a real simple wardrobe. None of this fancy stuff. Get you a couple of pair of slacks, a couple of the shirts that you would just wear all the time. Kind of gives the Hunger Games vibe. You think about it.
Yep.
So that's what that makes me think about. But similar to food rationing, the goal was to ensure a fair distribution of clothing and improve availability in shops. So just wanted to talk a little bit more in depth about rationing, as Lucy will begin talking more about it herself in the letters. So it's important to get a good grasp of what exactly was going on with all that.
It is unreal.
I know.
Really. I couldn't imagine living in that time.
I know. Very difficult times.
Yes. She goes on to say, the war news seems very good and makes me think we will soon be together again. What do you think about it all, darling?
So, a few of the newspaper headlines that I could find, I couldn't exactly find one for this specific date, but around this time, a lot of the newspaper articles that I was able to pull up and see were talking about how the Germans were being defeated. They were retreating. They were trying to get out of France because the Allied forces were pushing them out or whatever. So, and then just about a week before this letter she wrote, Hitler had survived an assassination attempt when a bomb exploded during a meeting in East Prussia. And then on August 1st, which is like the day after, a couple of days after this, Polish patriots banded together in Warsaw to revolt against the Nazis. So more and more you're getting this feeling that the Germans are being defeated. So I'm sure the newspaper articles she was reading was making her feel that way. Mm-hmm. So, and I don't know, we don't know what he said back to her. And he probably couldn't tell her a lot, Mm-hmm. But she seems to think, based on what she's read, that it looks good. Mm-hmm.
I can hear the radio in the next house playing something very romantic, and it makes me feel very lonely because you are not here. Oh, darling, I do long for your company so much, but I try to be happy because I know you would not want me to get bored.
So I was thinking about that. Her sitting there being able to hear romantic music, and she's alone and wondering about him and just the emotions involved in that.
Yeah. So sad.
It is. And not just that she was lonely, but that the man that she was so much in love with was in danger, constant danger, and she knew that. So you'd have all these emotions.
Yeah. Constantly worrying, wondering.
Yeah. Not being able to talk to him. Waiting on a letter.
Yeah.
Just waiting on the mail the next day, which I think she says that here in a minute, maybe. But yeah, I think she does. But that had to be difficult on her. And because you're lonely, you're missing them, you're in love, you're excited about hopefully having a future with this person. You're afraid that you're going to get the bad news that something bad's happened to them because thousands of soldiers were dying. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that would be tough. And then hearing next door romantic music and seeing couples walk down the street and wishing that you were with your sweetheart. Mm-hmm. I know it's funny. I try to be happy because I know you would not want me to get bored. So she did, she went to the pictures and all that. Mm-hmm. So I want to hear more about all that.
I know, I do too.
Things like that she was doing.
Mm-hmm. Have you heard from your mother and sisters, and how are they all? If your mother does write to me, I thought I would send her one of your pictures, as I am sure she would love to have one. I am wanting tomorrow to come quickly to see if there is a letter from the dearest and finest man in the world. Good night, my dear love, and take great care of yourself. With all my love, from your Lucy.
That's so sweet.
That is so sweet.
The dearest and finest man in the world. Mm-hmm. And we've talked about this a little bit before too, but she writes him frequently, once or twice a week at least. And I think she just gushes over him. And I think about him receiving these letters and how encouraging that must be. And I know she probably does that intentionally, these things that she's saying to him, the dearest and finest man in the world, and all these things. I'm sure she has in mind that she's trying to encourage him and boost his morale while he's over there fighting.
Right.
I think that's awesome of her to do that.
Yeah. Give him the strength to just go on and fight one more day closer to getting to her. Yeah.
Knowing you have somebody there that loves you like that and that's waiting. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's always important. I learned that in psychology class. It's always important to have something to look forward to.
Yes.
Always need to have something on the calendar. Yes, something on the calendar, even if it's just a night out somewhere, you need to have something on the calendar. So that's our advice to y'all. Put something on the calendar. Have something to look forward to.
Yes, absolutely.
So we continue on this journey with Lucy and Jimmy as they detail what's going on with both of them. And next time, Lucy reminisces a little bit about a time that she visited him when he was stationed in Salisbury. That's where he was at the time that they met. And so she reminisces just a little bit about visiting there and when he was there. And also, very, very important, we would like to mention that June 6, 2024 is the 80th anniversary of D-Day coming up. Very, very important date to remember. Write that on your calendar. June 6, 2024 is the 80th anniversary of D-Day. We have been invited and will be watching the National World War II Museum's D-Day 80th commemoration online. It's in New Orleans, so it's too far for us to travel there. But we have submitted the information about our grandfather so that he will be included in that. And we encourage you to reflect on this day as well, because that was the day, that was a very important day that changed a lot of things over there. And so we want to remember that. We want to remember all the men and women who fought and made things possible, and the effect and the trickle down effect that it had across the world. And it's very important to remember there are still some veterans who are alive. I think the lady said that she had maybe 10 or 12 that were actually going to be in attendance there. So we'll get to see them walk in. They'll bring them in. And so just take a moment on that day and reflect on the importance of that day and the sacrifices that were made on that day and how it changed the world. That day changed the world. Mm-hmm. So we encourage you to do that. Also, this is something that I've not even told Megan. Don't you love this?
I do.
We have a big surprise next time.
Oh, I'm excited.
I found something.
What?
And I'm not telling.
Until next time?
Until next time. So make sure that you tune in next time for the reveal of this big surprise.
Oh, I'm excited.
You think I'm going to make you wait all week?
You better not. You better tell me as soon as we're done.
I think everybody would like to see your true reaction.
Yeah.
That would be fun to see. Well, I don't know. I might tell you. We'll see.
Okay.
Yeah.
So don't miss any of our upcoming episodes. Like and subscribe, share with your friends.
Yep. Yeah, it all helps us, all of it. Liking. We appreciate all the comments. We appreciate y'all liking. Make sure you subscribe on our YouTube. Follow on our Podbean if that's how you're listening. Follow on Facebook if you're on Facebook. We have Instagram. We have all the avenues. TikTok. We have all of it. So just whatever your favorite is, make sure you are subscribed, followed, liked. That way you'll get notifications when we put something up. And then on Sunday nights, usually not every Sunday night, we will go live on Facebook just to chat with our listeners. And we've been asking questions, fun questions to get to know our listeners and so that y'all can get to know us a little better. And so just join us there, but just you'll have to follow on Facebook so that you'll get that notification when we go live. So also email allmylovelucy@gmail.com if you'd like to email a question or a comment or something you want us to read. Or even like we were talking about our mom calling and saying, hey, I know what haystack means. If you have something like that, you hear us talking and you know and we don't or whatever, or you just want to contribute to the conversation, we would love that. We would love to get involved. And so allmylovelucy@gmail.com. That's more of a private way to communicate with us. You're more than welcome to leave comments on our YouTube, on our Facebook, Instagram, all of that. So just communicate with us any way you want to.
Yes.
So, and as promised, we're going to end the episode with an uninterrupted reading of the letter. So until next time, we hope you enjoy. July 30th, 1944. My very own darling. I am so glad to be home so that I can write you an extra letter. How are you, dearest? I wonder where you are at this moment and what you're doing. Have you met many French people yet and learnt any French, mon cher? Well, sweetheart, I have been very busy today cleaning my room and mending my stockings which were full of holes. What joy it would be for me to throw them all away. But as I won't get any coupons until August 5th, I have to hang on to them as I get blisters if I go without. The war news seems very good and makes me think we will soon be together again. What do you think about it all, darling? I can hear the radio in the next house playing something very romantic, and it makes me feel very lonely because you are not here. Oh, darling, I do long for your company so much. But I try to be happy because I know you would not want me to get bored. Have you heard from your mother and sisters, and how are they all? If your mother does write to me, I thought I would send her one of your pictures, as I am sure she would love to have one. I am wanting tomorrow to come quickly to see if there is a letter from the dearest and finest man in the world. Good night, my dear love, and take great care of yourself. With all my love, from your Lucy. If you are hearing this message, you've listened to the entire episode, and for that, we want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts. We truly hope you enjoyed this episode, and we hope you'll return for the next episode of the All My Love Lucy podcast.